Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Activities for People Living with Dementia. We're proud to offer this series with funding from the Area Agency on Aging and the United Way of Tarrant County. Some of our programs are recorded and some are made available for viewing through our YouTube channel for future use. To find us on YouTube, type in Dementia Friendly Fort Worth. Click on our logo, which is a longhorn on a blue background, and choose the word videos. If you haven't tried it, try it. You might like it. I am Martha Brown, your host for today's activities. Today, Peggy Speir is with us from the Amon Carter Museum of American Art. Peggy is going to show us art by the artist Bodmer. I didn't know anything about Bodmer, so it's going to be an education for me, and Peggy's always fun. Let's turn this over to her. Peggy, it's all yours.
Thank you, sister.
Yes, ma'am.
Here we go. So Bodmer, we currently have two exhibitions. Our special exhibitions right now are, well, two of our three are centered around American Indian artists or art depicting American Indians. We are focusing on the watercolors by an artist named Carl Bodmer, and the exhibition is coming to us from the Jocelyn in Omaha, Nebraska. Have any of you been to that art museum before?
Not in Omaha.
Been to Omaha, yeah. So that they've got a really wonderful art museum in Omaha, and they have a really wonderful American Indian collection. And so this Bodmer collection, or this Bodmer exhibition, is all paintings that this artist did on an exhibition that he took with a German explorer named Maximilian. And so first I'm going to just orient us. So
what was the name of the museum in Omaha?
Jocelyn.
Jocelyn, thank you.
Yeah. So now we're looking at a map, but this is more just to orient us. We're not looking at state lines. That's not the purpose of this map, because this was happening in the early 1800s, and this was just a territory of the United States. States weren't totally broken up yet, and it was indigenous land. Really, it was not. While it was U.S. territory, it was not really under government control the way that the eastern part of the country had been. So they were thinking, Maximilian and his expedition team, which included Carl Bodmer, who is a Swiss painter, and Maximilian was a German man, that they were going to go across the Rocky Mountains. Well, they were connected to Clark from Lewis and Clark. And I believe it was Clark, one of the two. And they were given a bunch of maps, and they said it's really best if you go up the Missouri. That water riverway will get you to a bunch of different places that you want to go. So that's what they ended up doing. They started in St. Louis, and then they went up the Missouri River. So you can see they went up and then they came back down. Okay. So you can see some of the territories or some of the states blocked off, but they were really venturing into areas that had not been under good U.S. control. So a lot of their plans had been changed because they might have got to an area and didn't have a fort they could go to, or didn't feel safe in a certain place, or didn't have a connection that could show them the area. So that dictated a lot of where they stopped and stayed along the way. Okay, so they were on different steamboats, and they were switching steamboats, staying on steamboats, going on fur trading boats, things like that. And they were hitting the different forts along the way. And along the way, there were American Indians coming on these boats for travel and for trade and getting off these boats. The purpose of this exhibition was to really document the American Indian life along the Missouri. So this exhibition is, I would say, 80% portraits, and there are a couple of landscapes that Bodmer ended up painting, mostly because their boat would get stuck And so then it would give him, he would be painting maybe the scenes he was seeing from the boat or where they were wintering, things like that. So first portrait we're going to look at is of this Hadassah man. What do you notice, or what do you see? What jumps out at you?
His headpiece.
His
Yes.
headdress. Yeah. Can you see some of the things that are coming off of it?
It's like turkey feathers.
Turkey feathers, yeah.
Yeah,
And-
I have
Oops, what happened?
I'm not seeing, I did not see in the list of feathers turkey feathers, but these do look like turkey feathers. Raven feathers are.
Almost looks like porcupine quills.
There are no porcupine quills in his headdress, no. But there are all different types of feathers. This headdress was a very specific outfit he would wear for his dog society regalia. So this this sitter sat twice for Bodmer. Bodmer developed really wonderful rapport with a lot of the American Indians that he painted. And so he would.
Cheyenne dog warrior.
I'm sorry?
So that's a Cheyenne dog warrior.
I don't know what that is.
What, I thought you just said dog a while ago.
He's a member of the dog society for this particular nation.
Yeah, in the Cheyenne society, there was some superior warriors were called dog soldiers.
Yes,
Kinda
so
like our
that's
special forces.
Cheyenne. That is a totally different nation. We're not down in the plains like that. We're up in the Missouri, that part of the country. Well, there are plains, but we're not dealing with that particular nation here. We're dealing with the Hadassah nation.
So Peggy,
Yes.
So you don't know what this one is.
No, I'm telling you, it's a Hadassah man, and he is wearing the hat, the headgear, the head dress for a dog society specific to that particular nation he is a part of.
Could you go back to the map one more time for us,
Yes.
please? Thank you. Because that will help me get some. Okay, I see where it is. It's basically farther along.
up north there.
It's
Yeah,
it's either Montana or eastern or western North Dakota, either one.
Yeah, and at that time, states did not exist, so
Right.
just
Yeah.
that part of the country or that part of the world.
Because I know where Fort Pierre is, that's in South Dakota, and so everything else is farther. I know where Mandan is and Fort Clark, so it's basically, it's probably either Montana or western North Dakota in that area on the river.
Yeah, and so we're not focusing on the states. I know
Oh,
that's really hard for us to like separate what we know as the states.
Brain where it is. I'm sorry, I was just putting in my brain. I apologize.
But that's okay. That it's just really important. This is what this map is actually functioning as within the exhibition, where we know what our Euro-American people have assigned it. When they were visiting these lands, that's not what it was yet. So it's just it's helpful for us for placement, but that's not how it was being viewed at the time of exploration, if that makes sense.
It does.
I'm just
Fascinating.
So Peggy,
Yes.
you said you have a list of what kind of feathers are in his headset?
I don't have an extensive list, but these are raven's feathers. You can
Raven's feathers.
Yes. And then there are other little feathers that are coming off. You can see feathers here. These do look like turkey feathers, but it was not in the list that I have.
Gotcha.
So here he's wearing a very specific outfit for the society he was a part of. And this particular headdress identifies him as one of the 4 leaders within this group. So the regalia and the insignia that the people Bodmer were painting were very true to what they would have worn typically in special ceremonies or special events, but they all meant something. They received a lot of what they were wearing or wearing or displaying as part of accomplishments or identification within their nation.
Mhm.
So we know that this headdress was identifying him as a leader within this society. And so when he would dance, you can imagine the what the feathers would look like, how cool that would look when they were dancing.
Mhm.
Their activity would have been frenetic.
Yeah, it's all part of the performance. And so I'm trying to, and then around his neck, he has a right here, a eagle wing bone. So another bird that he's wearing. And then here, these would have been noisemakers, and they would have created sound. So while he was dancing and we're seeing the visualness of the feathers moving, we're also hearing the shells hitting each other. So some of the parts of that he's wearing were probably created by one of his wives. His wives were probably sisters, but they would have created a lot of what his regalia looked like. So we'll leave the Hidatsa man for Yankton Sioux, a chief. And these are really beautiful. So these watercolors would take hours and hours for him to do.
Yeah.
He would often paint these on the boat that he was on. So that's why they're kind of removed of context. We're not seeing them in nature. If you see, like this one, he does add in some scenery. That was probably done in studio later. But what we're seeing of just the portrait, this subject, was probably just done and painted on the boat. So here we have a Yankton Sioux. What jumps out at you first?
His tunic.
His tunic, yeah. His war shirt.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
on his shirt, he has, you see these hanks of hair, locks of hair. The yellow ones were for horses, and those designated the number of horses he had stolen in his time. So kind of a bragging, a bragging right. And then the darker ones were pieces of hair of warriors he'd either captured or killed in battle. So he's a very distinguished soldier. His other nicknames included Valiant Warrior, Big Soldier, the one who comes to, I can't read my writing, but something war related. But so he was a very decorated warrior within his nation. The different color feathers mean different color different types of accomplishments that he had. And these were the garments that he's wearing were reserved for special occasions. This was not something he would be wearing every day around camp. This was, he deliberately selected what he wanted to wear for Bodmer to paint him.
Yeah, they wouldn't wear the beadwork on the leggings.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Yeah,
Not typically, no.
because it'd be too. I have some beadwork my father-in-law got from the Sioux Indians in North Dakota, and they're just fragile. They are decorative for ceremonies. I can't wear it. I've got a belt with it. I can't wear the belt, otherwise it'd be pieces all over the place. The beadwork all over the place.
Excuse me, Peggy.
Yes.
This is Tia. I just wanted to tell those who are using a grand pad viewing with us today that if you want to enlarge the image that you see of the painting, you can touch the center of your grand pad with your two fingers and stretch them out, and you can enlarge the picture and see better detail.
Oh, Tia, that's wonderful.
Hey.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you might be able to see some of the detailing a little bit better. The beads were coming from Venice. We've talked about Venice beads in the past. So these beads that we're seeing on our sitters were a newer art form for the this part of the world, because now there's an extensive trade system happening with different cultures along the Missouri. And, we've got the fur trader boats that these explorers are on, but we've got American Indians coming off and on it, engaging in trade. So there are some portraits within this exhibition where it's a man from one nation wearing a blanket from a different nation. So we know that things are working their way up and down the trade route in Missouri. So here beads, these Venetian glass beads, the seed beads, were starting to appear on the trade route. And so they were these detailings were once porcupine quills. They're now being replaced, which was very labor intensive. They're now being replaced with these glass beads from Europe. And so the porcupine quills, what they would do is they would dye them, and then they would put them in their mouth and get them a little soggy, and then pull the porcupine quill out to flatten them and use that as a bead. So the bead would be the quill, and it would look flat. Whereas here now, there's all different ways of beading, and different nations got better at certain types of beading techniques and things like that. So I don't know what type of beading technique this is, but you can see it's done in rows, just from the small details we are able to see. And so my background is in American Indian beadwork. I could talk about this for a very long time, but
That's amazing, Peggy.
thank you. Yeah, I went to Denver. I went to school in Denver, so they have an amazing collection in Denver at the Denver Art Museum. And we're in the middle of Ute Nation, so they were big beaders themselves. But different symbols or insignia mean different things within different nations. So I don't know exactly what these cross-like figures would mean. I'm sure these almost medallions have different meanings, but there was always a certain motifs or designs or emblems that were attached within certain nations that you were able to understand more about the wearer and what their accomplishments were.
Yeah.
And so here, you can see he's got a medallion around his neck. That's a peace medallion, which means that he had accomplished a lot with diplomacy and leadership. So that was a kudos to him. And then he, let me read my notes. He also had probably met with other nations, both American and other American Indian nations, for different treaties, things like that. So he was a very well-respected warrior and diplomat that we're able to tell. And then at the end of this, he stood for many hours having his portrait made. And then at the end of this, he ended up gifting all of his regalia to the Euro-American travelers who painted his portrait, which says a lot. So these American Indians were really feeling a connection. We're feeling respected. We're being treated appropriately, to have that type of dynamic and allow a Euro-American or just a European into their world. A lot of times there has been historically this disconnect between wanting to let Anglo people come in and almost kind of pick apart their culture in a way as exotic. It was more of the intent of recording more ethnographically versus the exoticism that a lot of painters would do with American Indians, because it was so foreign to their understanding of what indigenous life was, or what life was in general. So we'll leave this very beautifully dressed man to this young girl. So this is different in that we talk about, he's not really in any sort of, he's just kind of floating. And she's now placed in some sort of scenery, which was probably added later on. Here we've got a young girl who was of Siksika descent, but raised probably by her Assiniboine, father's Assiniboine people. And it based on what her regalia and garments are, she was probably very well taken care of. These, again, we talked about the beads. These are Venetian beads that would have been acquired through trade and then expensive. So they were able to acquire these through their means. And it's the fact that we're even seeing a young girl. We typically didn't, Bodmer's paintings were probably 90% men.
Mm-hmm.
If we are seeing, he did do a few girls and women. And the thought is that they were either interracial marriages. It was either a French or American fur trapper who had married into a tribe, or he had gotten close enough with the male, the father, the husband, or whatever, that then they felt comfortable introducing their daughter or wife to these Euro-American explorers. So again, trust, what had to have been established to get these portraits of these young women and girls. And so these would have been turquoise beads around her neck, on her ear, and down her shoulder from Venice.
Hey, Peggy,
Yes,
why are they called Blackfeet or Blackfoot?
that's the name of their nation.
Okay, is there a reason for it? I mean,
I'm sure there is, but I don't know enough about that particular nation to
okay,
delve into like the etymology, or what is it, the etymology of it.
Mhm.
And then here, like the man's name, the curator at the Jocelyn, her name is Annika, has developed a really nice relationship with a lot of the nations that would have been in the Omaha area and continue to live in the Omaha area. So there's a lot. We've been trained that if you don't know how to properly say their name, to just not, because you wouldn't want your name said wrong. So don't. So while we want to apply the phonetic understanding we know of English to these names, that probably was not how they were pronounced. The same, and with Bodmer as well, he was putting German and Swiss, German, French spellings and phonetic sentence structures and words together to assign things where we don't know for sure if that was actually the person's name. So there's a lot to be said about American Indian vernacular, and it changes from one nation to the next. So I don't know where Blackfoot came from, how that name translated or where it came to be.
Mm-hmm.
And this last picture, I mentioned at the start of the session, there were a few landscape portraits that are in this exhibition, and those were typically painted when, like you can see here, there's this might be of people walking, but in a lot of the landscapes you can see sticks and things like that, because boats were getting stuck in these tangles. But here were the expedition crew wintered at Fort Clark. And so you can see here's the US military fort, and then here's a Mandan village right here. And so this Mandan village was the cultural hub for the Mandan Nation, and it went by either, I think it was, let me make sure I'm getting it right. First, where is it? Either First Village or East Village was the name of this particular Mandan village, but it was really the kind of the trading, the economic and trading cultural center for the Mandans at that time. So, which they gave the US permission to build their military fort here. And so they were working side by side and together in a lot of cases. But this was a major stop on the trade route along the Missouri. And so you can see some of these are people coming in and out of the area, getting what they need, whether it's information, food, beads, stuff like that. So that's it. The exhibition's on view, I want to say through early March, late February. They are beautiful, beautiful, beautiful portraits, and they're probably 12 by 18. They're not huge, but they're not tiny. And the detail, not always the accuracy, but the detail is really wonderful. And what's been really cool is that these nations that he's depicting are still very much functioning today. And they're able to, a lot of these nations look to Bodmer's artworks to figure out what traditional garb would have looked like for this event, or what type of beadwork was used for this type of accolade and stuff like that. So a lot of the nations today are looking back to these artworks, and it's helping them influence some of their traditions that they're still keeping moving forward. Really cool.
Peggy, you take us into places we would never otherwise go.
Oh, I'm glad. It's fun.
Yes.
So
thank
if
so much.
if you are interested, you can Google Bodmer. The Jocelyn has a lot of stuff on the internet about these artworks. But the artworks will be on view for the next couple of months. So if you are in the area and want to just spend some quiet moments in the galleries with these, I really encourage it. It's a stunning, stunning show.
So Peggy, how many portraits are going to be
I
in
want
the
to say
exhibit?
between 30 and 40.
Oh, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, there are a good amount of artworks on the wall. I didn't take any installation shots, and this is only just like a fraction of what the Jocelyn actually has. So it's a really cool,
It's not offside.
it's really cool kind of, there's no real timeline to it. There's no real, you're just kind of going up the river and you're just learning different aspects of what this looks like. So
I was going to say that based on how old these paintings must be, they must have been taken very well cared for watercolors not to lose their color over time.
yeah, they've been with I'm not sure. Okay, so this was acquired in what, 86? And with watercolors, these will rest for a very long time afterwards, not that they
Yeah.
so it's really cool to see these, because these will not be out for maybe another 10 or 20 years after that, now they've been exposed to light for this long. But they're just wonderful. And he ended up influencing a lot of other artists who were painting American Indians after him, a little more sensationalized after him, kind of focusing more on the exoticism of these nations. But he was really trying to capture the people and their garb, their regalia, their insignia as best as he could. And so while there is a little bias, it's some of the more accurate depictions of what these people looked like given the time.
Beautiful. And next week you will still be with us if you haven't given premature birth, right?
That is the plan. We're next week we're looking at portraits. So it's going to be more portraits, but not these portraits. Portraits in our permanent collection. So
Portraits. We're looking forward to that, Peggy.
right.
And it's exciting to know you're about to be a mom again. I'm cavelling over you being another mom.
Telling.
Yes,
Yeah, it's gonna be here before we know it. So
absolutely.
I hope I better be here next week. That's not the plan I have with the baby. We made a deal, make it 38 weeks. So
38 weeks.
I hope this baby holds up its end of the deal, right?
That's right.
But
Peggy,
yeah.
could I make a suggestion? I'm curious about resting times and photographs and light. Can you sometime educate us and take a session to tell us about how art is treated?
Yeah, definitely. We can talk about conservation practice. That would be a great.
That would be great.
It
Yeah.
won't happen before I'm gone, but when I come
No.
back, that will be a great topic to talk about in our. I'll see if our conservator wants to join, because she loves
that'd be
talking
nice.
about her job.
Yeah.
We have 2 conservators in-house. We have 3, one's a fellow, but 2, one's photographs and one's work on paper. So we don't have a paintings conservator. We use the one down at the Kimball. But yeah, our works on paper conservator she's the chief, so she would be a great person to talk to. So I'll see.
Fabulous. Fabulous. Have a great week, Miss Peggy.
You
and
too,
stay
guys. Be
healthy.
good, stay warm, and I will see you next week.
All right.
Yes, you
Excellent. Thanks,
will.
Peggy.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Bye,
friends.
Peggy.
Bye,
Thank
Peggy.
you.
Bye-bye.
Let's take a look at what's coming up, and then we will turn off the recording, and we have about 20 minutes of Fifth Street Cafe where we sit around and chat. So don't go away. We're going to take a look at what's coming. Okay, at 11:30, Heather is going to do a little more TCU Frog Bingo, which is a surprise. If you like bingo, drop in. And at 1:30, I'm going to do some story wise. So we're going to take some, pardon?
Oh, I didn't think you could hear me. I said, I've been wanting to go to that story wise.
Well, good. Well, hang in there at 1:30 and we'll do that. And then tomorrow, oops. Nope. Tomorrow, December 1st, I don't have the slides up. I apologize. Well, let's just stop and we'll go look. You get to see the background of how we do things.
All right.
You don't see that. Share the
Don't show
screen.
us anything we're not supposed to see.
I want to show you. Well, come on, Martha, end the show and go down to your mail. What I do is, you can see my mail, can't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I keep a copy of what we do right here. And all of us ladies share this. Here we go. Okay. Here we go. Fitwits is tomorrow, all day.
Ooh, cool.
And then on Friday, we have Jeopardy, an instant replay again of the Artful Moments about food, and another story wise. So you get to see how the sausage is made. Let me turn off the recording.